Hi, this is Rachel coming to you with this week's Sparkle of Shabbat. I had a different sparkle prepared for today, but I really feel that I need to focus a bit on the terrible tragedy that's happening in Ukraine. I want to tell a little story and then relate it back to our current tragedy. Years ago, I worked with a lovely lady. This is going back like 25 years. I worked with a lovely lady who came from very modest means. And she used to say that when she went home, her mom would prepare her this very special dish to her. I think it was like grits with cheese on top and maybe even slices of bacon across the top. She described it to me and I had this visual of this layered dish. And I think maybe even maple syrup on top. But it was really kind of down-home comfort food as she described it. And she would say that her mother would say to her, "Never forget from where you come." And her mother would always just say this quote to her. And she really appreciated this really comfort food dish. And it was different than the food that she was eating many years later in her adult life, which was much fancier as she prospered in her career. And it makes me think so much about my grandpa and really all of my grandparents who came from Eastern Europe, but my grandpa in particular who came from Ukraine at the time and fled the pogroms and came here to the U.S. to build a life for his future generations, which would lead me to be able to give these sparkles today. So his foresight and stick-to-itness and just grit, basically, to bring it back to the grits, brought him and future generations here to the U.S. And I just cannot separate myself from the previous generations in my family who lived in Ukraine and who suffered for so long. And here we are 100 years later with the same type of suffering going on. I truly pray that lo yisagoy el goy cherev lo yilmadu od milchama, that nation shall not lift up sword against nation, and neither shall they learn war anymore. I know that that doesn't seem to be happening right now and today, but it is my Shabbat prayer that that can happen in the future. I'm thinking also about a quote that I read from Rabbi Jonathan Sachs that when victors are trying to overtake one another, not only do the victims become, or not only do the people who are taken over become victims, but the people themselves who are doing the taking over are also victims and become trapped of their own greed and their own desire for power. So I truly pray that we can find a time when there is no more war, and I pray also for the safety of all of our brothers and sisters in Ukraine, that we should come through this as peacefully as possible. Shabbat Shalom.